Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to this budget public hearing and regular meeting of Tampa Bay Water. This meeting was noticed in the Florida Administrative Register and on the Tampa Bay Water website. The meeting is available for viewing through live streaming, and a recording of the meeting will be posted on the agency's website. This time, I would like to ask Vice Chair Hanowitz to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I believe all members are present this morning, so I think we can dispense with the roll call and just note that for the record. At this time, we are going to open the public hearing on our fiscal year 2026 budget. At this time, I'm going to ask the general manager, Mr. Carden, to introduce the budget presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Last month, we presented our proposed 2026 budget to you in a workshop, and today we are having the budget hearing. Christina Sackett, our Chief Financial Officer, will go through the budget briefly, a little more condensed version from last month. So, Christina.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. This presentation will recap the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget that was presented at the April workshop and give a review of the planned fiscal year 26 capital improvement program expenditures. Board action will be requested after the presentation and public comment. Some of the key factors impacting the development of the proposed fiscal year 26 budget include the forecasted water demand, alignment with the agency's strategic plan, inflation impact on costs, use of reserve funds, upcoming large capital projects, future funding needs, and balancing these factors with minimizing the impact on the fiscal year net revenue required from water sales and impacts on future budgets. The projected demand for fiscal year 26 is 209.7 million gallons per day and will be supplied with an annual average of 79 million gallons of surface water, 12 million gallons of seawater, and about 118 million gallons per day from groundwater. The proposed uniform rate for fiscal year 26 is slightly below $2.64 per thousand gallons. This is an increase of about 2 cents from the current fiscal year and includes a variable rate around 61 cents per thousand gallons. We were able to minimize the increase to the uniform rate by using $4 million from the rate stabilization account and $500,000 from the operating reserve. The agency's total cost to provide quality water to the member governments consists of two components, fixed cost and variable cost. The agency's variable costs fluctuate annually depending on the projected demand and supply source, and in fiscal year 26, the variable costs equal about 21% of the total anticipated cost. The fixed costs account for the remaining 79%, and they consist of four subcomponents: the contracted operations and maintenance agreements, debt service for the member acquisition credits, debt service for bonds, and the fixed cost to operate the agency. As you can see, debt service makes up about 43% of the total cost, which is an increase of 4% over the current fiscal year. And with potential large upcoming capital projects, the percentage of debt service for bonds will likely continue to grow. However, the member acquisition credits finish in fiscal year 2028, which will help offset the increase in bonds debt service. The total cost for the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget are $219.4 million, which is an increase of about $6.8 million over the current fiscal year. This is largely due to the increase in the bonds debt service of $10.6 million, and listed here is a breakdown of the costs by category. The proposed budget does include a 3% cost of living adjustment and a performance-based merit program of up to 3%. The projected adjustments of $13 million and the $4.5 million use of reserves are netted against the total cost of $219.4 million to get the proposed net revenue required from water sales of $202 million. This pie chart shows the breakdown of each division's percentage of the proposed fiscal year 26 total costs. The budgets for the Water Production Division and the Finance and Administration Division account for 84% of the total costs. This is because the Water Production Division includes the variable costs and the contracted operations and maintenance agreements for the surface water treatment plant and the desalination facility, and the Finance and Administration Division includes the agency's debt service. Next, I will provide a review of the fiscal year 26 capital improvement program. The estimated expenditures for fiscal year 26 total $254.5 million, with project activity ranging from planning all the way to closeout. 3 projects account for 79% of the planned fiscal expenditures. The South Hillsborough Pipeline, segments A and B, account for 50% of the total, with expenditures of $127 million. And the surface water treatment plant expansion has expenditures of $74.4 million, accounting for 29% of the total expenditures. There are 7 projects with expenditures between $3.1 million and $8.2 million that account for 15% of the total, and the remaining 6% is for 29 projects with expenditures of $1.5 million or less. This shows the planned funding sources for the fiscal year 26 capital improvement program expenditures. 8% will be funded with pay-as-you-go type funds, such as renewal and replacement, capital improvement, and release debt service funds. 13% will be funded with member government joint project agreements, and 79% will be funded with existing revenue bonds, either from the Series 2022 or the 2024 bonds. The agency is also anticipating receiving about $18.5 million in reimbursements through grants and district co-funding during the fiscal year, which includes about $5.25 million for segment B of the pipeline. Plus, the agency may receive some money from the PFAS litigation, which may be used for capital projects. Here is a review of the highlights of the proposed fiscal year 26 budget. Again, anticipated demand of 209.7 million gallons per day, maintaining the full-time equivalent count of employees at 163. Total costs of $219.4 million, using $4 million from the rate stabilization fund and using $500,000 from the operating reserve, bringing us to a net revenue required from water sales of $202 million, with a uniform rate of $2.64 per 1,000 gallons, plus capital improvement program estimated expenditures of $254.5 million. For today's public hearing, the remaining budget actions include receiving any public comment on the proposed fiscal year 26 budget or capital improvement program, approving resolution 2025008, which approves the fiscal year 26 operating budget, and approving the estimated capital improvement program expenditures for fiscal year 26. This does conclude my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from board members? Commissioner Eggers.
Good morning. Thank you for that cursory overview. Just for the record, I sit on a state board, and I was listening to their budget presentation, and they had 0 increase in pay, and I was like fighting for the opposite. So I was fighting for pay increase. They said, well, the House and the Senate will make that decision forthcoming. So when I asked the question about the fixed cost or fixed increase, the COLAs, okay, but if you could maybe highlight a little bit the performance-based and how that goes, and generally how much of that's being used, and just to kind of give a feel for that, as opposed to some folks might say it's just an automatic 2% increase, when in reality, it probably isn't. So
Correct. It is a performance-based merit program, so every year all of the managers review their staff. I think non-managerial staff have about 7 or 8 categories that they are reviewed upon. Managers have an additional 4 or 5. We just recently changed it. That's why I'm not sure of the number of questions. And it goes through, and they're rated. It goes anywhere from meets performance, exceeds performance, or needs improvement. And every employee that's eligible, they have to be out of probation to be eligible for the merit. So every employee is reviewed. HR also reviews it to kind of make sure that there's consistencies with it. So somebody's not giving somebody a higher score and giving somebody else maybe a mid-score, but saying the exact same thing. If you're giving someone more than or less than meets expectations, you kind of have to put some proof behind it. So HR kind of goes through there to make sure that all aligns. Then we take all of those evaluations and kind of figure out where everyone lies. We'll have some people that'll be at the top, and then some people that will be at the bottom, and then there's the range in between. We kind of look at that and determine, if we do have someone that maybe has whatever the highest score is, let's just say it's a 3, then those couple employees would probably be eligible for the 3%, and then we range it down from there and kind of go based on there. I think last year it was 2.04 was the average.
Okay.
Yeah. The year prior to that, I believe it was 1.89, and I think the year prior to that it was 2.25%. But that's how the process goes.
Okay. Well, I think, I understand the need for that. I'm glad you guys go through that process and decide kind of how it meets out. I'd like to maybe chat a little bit more about that. I don't run into a lot of groups using effectively the performance base. So, but interesting. If you could maybe just give us a sense, not today, obviously, but just a kind of a bar curve on how many folks are at the 3%. So you see, and just see how that skews above the 1.5, which is a midpoint.
Sure.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Mariano.
Thank you. Could you go back to slide 3, please?
Slide 3.
3, yeah. So I look at the slide, I see the surface water, 79 million gallons per day. How much of that comes from the Bill Young Reservoir? Do we know?
I don't have a number off the top of my head. I don't know if Warren does. But we use, and I'll show you slides in my general manager report, where we'll use it during reservoir completely by itself in the dry season. And then in the wet season, the reservoir is off. So I don't have a percentage, but it is used in conjunction with our seasons.
All right, I'd like to get like a feel for how much of it goes from that. All right, next thing is, as far as the price per gallon, do we do estimates as far as what the surface water costs, what desal costs, what groundwater costs, how that kind of breaks down?
Yeah, relatively speaking, it used to be the 1's, the 2, and a 3. That has changed a little bit. Groundwater is in the dollar, between $1 range, and then surface water is between $2 and $2.50. And then the highest, of course, is the desal. That's approaching $5, in the $5 range per thousand.
Okay. If you would go to slide 10. So looking at the surface water treatment plant expansion, look to see how the breakdown, and I'm not expecting this today when I'm asking, I just want some thought about it. What's the dollar value going to help us there? And the reason I bring that out is the surface water is going to be a big investment coming up. We're looking at doing more groundwater pumping, especially up to Dade City. I want to take a look and break down as we look at what we want to do for future plans for capital expansions to go see what the value would be to look at another reservoir coming up somewhere and kind of dive into it a little bit more. Last question, PFAS litigation. It looks like and maybe our federal people can talk to it, but it looks like they're changing the limits to what the PFAS number is going to be. Is that going to affect the lawsuit that's currently going, or does the lawsuit still have the weight because the laws from before had levels that were given compared to the being changed now?
Yeah, I was going to cover that, so we'll cover that.
Okay, we'll cover later.
I can do that right here. I think late last week, the EPA announced some changes that they would be looking into with the PFAS. They're going to keep the 4 parts per trillion for the PFOA and the PFAS, and then there's 4 CERCLA PFAS substances they're going to drop. And they're also going to give another 2 years to be in compliance. So it was 2029, it is 2031. And they have to go into rulemaking. That's the next thing. Just saying we're going to change these is not going to be the way it goes. Yeah, they have to have public meetings and take comment. They're suggesting maybe next spring they will be able to change the rules that I just told you. By and large, the 4 parts per trillion for the two, they're saying they're not going to change. Doesn't really change anything for us on a standpoint of what we've sampled and seen. But we are keeping an eye on it. We are working on a draft of some recommendations to the board, and we've been keeping an eye on this. And the best thing I can tell you is it's really not changed much in how we're proceeding. The 4 parts per trillion is, by and large, going to be the number they're going to stay with.
And just to tag on to that, to my knowledge, there has never been an indication that what's happening with the rulemaking or the level would impact the litigation
Okay.
in our claims.
Just want to make sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Commissioner, did you? Okay. At this time, we are going to ask for public comment. We have one person signed up for public comment today on the budget, and that is Mark Clutho.
Mark Clutho, Largo. Well, you operate this building, wasting tons of money, and you still bandy about this word budget. It just doesn't fly. And I walk up to the building and I see more plants being butchered. And I can just imagine at other facilities besides this one where the same thing happens. 16 light bulbs out there shining on the wall as though you're still lighting those paintings that you used to have hanging there. And this was supposed to be described as a day-lit building. So pathetic. And you're saying 12 million gallons from the D-cell plant when it was touted as providing 25 million gallons a day. You just tell lie after lie after lie. I was at that Spotlight Tampa Bay about sustainability, and I didn't see Tampa Bay water with a table over there. That's quite depressing. And here's the USA Today with the 50 states, and here in California, there's a facility, a hospital-based renewable microgrid, which is the largest in the country. Now, why isn't that something that you have at your D-cell plant? You know what a microgrid is? You bunch of wizards. Why is it that you're having TECO bring in that fossil fuel
Thank you.
powered
Thank you, Mr. Clutho.
energy?
We'll see you again just I think,
More
in a few
more
minutes.
to come.
All right. At this time, we are going to close the public comment on the budget, and we will close the public hearing. I would entertain a motion at this time for the passage of the fiscal year 2026 budget.
Move approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wustel, seconded by Commissioner Peters.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we vote, let me explain that I always vote against the budget, not because there's something wrong with the budget, but because when I was growing up, I always realized that a contract is a contract, and no contract I've ever seen has got two endings. This one has two endings. One in 2038, one if there's funding to be added as a debt, you cannot end. So that's the reason why. There's nothing wrong with the system. System works perfectly.
Thank you. At this time, please record your vote on the motion.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed 8-1.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we're going to open the regular board meeting, and we will go to public comment. Mr. Clutho, you have an additional 3 minutes this time in general public comment. And after that, we will hear from Mr. David Ballard Geddes Jr.
Mark Clutho Largo. Oh, you know, it's a shame I have to come here and talk about the manatees dying. Yeah. On your watch, I come up here and I see all those big gas hogs out there in the parking lot. And all the fools wearing coats when we're going to have a heat index over 100 degrees. How stupid is that? Yeah. Buy some more air conditioning so you can be comfortable. And you drink from those little water bottles that take more water to make than they hold. Oh, how stupid is that? Yeah. And this spotlight event, how can we grow sustainably? Well, I look at the landscape out there and everything has to be mutilated. From the kuntis to the firecrackers to the honeysuckle. How, and you know, what do you do with that? You have to water it. You water it. Oh, Tampa Bay Water, that's you, right? And then you're mutilating these things. How is that helping the environment? I don't think it is it? That's helping kill the manatees. You people are sick. I mean, really sick. Yeah. And the hurricanes are going to keep coming badder and badder. It's going to get really bad. Oh, I'll tell you. You just don't catch on. How many times do I have to tell you about those lights out there? What are you doing? Shining 16 bulbs on the wall. Sick. You people are really stupid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clutho. Mr.
Thank
David
you.
Ballard Geddes Jr. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. How far is this board willing to go with eminent domain proceedings based on the initial mapping effort of Florida's watersheds and the natural understanding of Florida's landscape, and maybe with using a little forethought, could these eminent domain proceedings have been avoided? And let's also reflect back on the fact that governments have been around for thousands of years. Why wasn't a little more forethought employed when engineering our society, in particular, as it relates to our essential water infrastructure? A stitch in time could have saved 9, but apparently that was just a little too difficult to foresee. Or was it? I think it was easy to foresee. How far is this board willing to go in its claiming of its eminent domain rights as based on the contrived process of the 14th Amendment in its planning and development of our most vital water resource? In speculation, I question, is legislation going to legislate an annual toilet inspection fee to monitor the use of water in our toilets? It's in this book. It was published 50 years ago. And is the county going to commission the reclaimed water variance application? In it, it states that we literally owe our health, our safety, and our religious convictions in its claiming of eminent domain of our property in Statute 15303, Section 5. I got a feeling this government knew a long time ago, based on simple physics and geometry, that unbridled, improper, inefficient development, coupled with the wasteful use of water, the use of pesticides and fertilizers, would ultimately bankrupt our water supply as based on Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of our current Constitution, and uniformly cause a disaster of perfidy, death, and despair, as written in the Declaration of Independence. Initially wasting the water, ignoring, omitting reasonably foreseen expected duty in government, eating us out of our subsistence instead of protecting our most vital water resources. Legislation constitutionally created a de facto water crisis, and using the fact of this deliberate water crisis, they intend to contrive and establish rights to capitalize and claim eminent domain to install infrastructure that was initially omitted, deliberately not done right.
Thank you very much,
first
Mr.
time
Geddes.
on purpose, is the natural definition of legislation birthing itself on piracy.
Thank you. All righty. At this time, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything from consent? If not, we need a motion for the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion for approval from Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilwoman Hanowitz. Please record your vote.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. We are going to move on now to the regular agenda. Item number B1 is the general manager's report, and we are going to receive that report now from Mr. Carden.
Thank you. I'm happy to report the regional water supply system is in very good shape. We are having some increased water demands as it's hot and dry lately. And we are continuing to augment the Hillsborough River. City of Tampa has not purchased any water, and I don't foresee that other than they have some planned maintenance over the summer, and they will be purchasing water. The average delivery is sitting about 198.46 million gallons a day through the month of April, and that is tracking pretty well to the demands we had last year through the fiscal year to compare that to. We have had below average rainfall between the periods of November and April, but the Hillsborough River continues under normal stream flow conditions, and then the flow in the Alafai River is below normal through the month of April. Our desal is averaging about 11.5 million gallons a day, and the surface water treatment plant is running about 70 million gallons a day. Primarily from the reservoir. It's being supplied by the reservoir. In this graph, I've showed you that last month and I will show you. It breaks down how we use the sources starting with the purple. Purple is a target that we set for the total system. We do that in advance, and you can see some of the months it's gone over and some of the months that we're under, but it tracks pretty well. For the time we're in now, we're using a lot of red, and that is the reservoir. And then you'll see the red kind of disappear on the far right bars, and that'll be total river water supplying the surface water treatment plant. Desal is in yellow, and that will continue to run through the summer. And then, of course, the remainder is the green bars showing the groundwater. And you'll see it's dipping quite down as we move through the summer. This slide shows the consolidated water use permit, and that's the 10 well fields that are all combined for a limit of 90 million gallons a day. And you can see the tracking is going further and further away from the 90 in the right direction. So you can see right now we're at 83.55 million gallons a day through the end of April. I happen to know the number today, if we had to report it, it's about 79 right now. So it will go up some, but it is tracking downwards at this time. Demands have been overall in our system pretty low compared to the hot and dry times. The next slide here will show you our permit for the South Central Hillsborough Regional Well Field. Not quite the same situation. We are tracking a little bit above the permit limit of the 24.95. End of April, it was at 25.46. I think today it's at 25.36. So it's going to hover around the 24.95. But I'll remind you that we have added some permit that we acquired this spring, and it is in the permitting. Maybe by October or so, we might be increasing that permit to 26.92 is what I remember. And here is a slide of our reservoir. And as you can tell, we're well above the orange line. This is a snapshot taken at the end of April. There was somewhere in the 11 billion range, but today I think it's at 10.4 billion, which is still about 3 billion more than what we projected at this time of year, which is reflected in the orange line. So we're in very good shape as we are entering, hopefully, the wet season soon. A couple updates. The City of Tampa's permit renewal, they submitted it, their application to the district to have a continued withdrawal of the 82 million gallons a day. We did meet with their staff in April, and we discussed the status of the permit and the use of the Hillsborough River during high flow events when available. That could be a benefit to the regional water supply system. We are planning another meeting early this summer with the city, and I'll keep the board apprised. The performance audit, give you a quick update, as we're required in the interlocal agreement to perform the audit every 5 years. We are in the procurement stage, and I believe 9 firms have submitted to perform the audit, and a selection team has been seated, and they are reviewing and ranking the proposals. The rankings will come back to the board for approval. I plan to bring that for the July meeting, and then they will get started on the audit, and we plan to hopefully be done by the end of the calendar year with the audit, and sometime in January with results. We are continuing our quarterly strategic plan updates, and so that is part of the preparations for the annual update of the plan, and is part of our environmental conditions assessment. We just recently did a SWOT analysis, of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats assessment. I did email that to the board, so if you had any questions on that, please let me know. We will use the results of the SWOT to inform our framework for discussions with the K2I platform, and also we will include that in our strategic plan update, the SWOT analysis. The last item is the water quality update that I think I covered with the PFAS changes as of late last week, and we're continuing to keep our eye on that. We had some hurricane preparation and emergency management training as we are preparing for the upcoming 2025 hurricane season. Yes, it's here again, that cycle. We took some of the lessons we learned from the 2024 season, And currently, we're incorporating these changes into our emergency plans and training programs. First week of May, we, as an agency, participated in position-specific training, and we had 2 days of specific training to the National Incident Management System. It's known as NIMS. And we are actually going through our maintenance of the generators. We're also talking to some third-party owners of our generation power, trying to get some MOUs with them to have their technicians available before and after the storms for us, a little more available, and we learned that lesson in the last hurricane season. We have continued to have meetings with the member government counterparts to discuss these lessons learned, and we plan to keep meeting with them to better coordinate our efforts. This slide shows 3 members of our board that participated with a ribbon cutting of the Wonders of Wetlands exhibit at the Great Explorations Children's Museum a couple of weeks ago. As you can see, Vice Chair Lisette Hanowitz made the opening remarks, and our Chairman Harry Cohen and Commissioner Dave Eggers helped us cut the ribbon. We also participated and exhibited at the EcoFest at the Learning Gate Community School and also at the Tampa Bay Chalk Festival in St. Pete. And in closing, I want to remind the board we do not have a meeting coming up in June. We'll meet again in July. And later this week, I'll be heading to Corpus Christi to be a part of a water summit and speak about our desal facility.
Okay, any questions for the general manager? Before, Councilwoman Hanowitz.
All right, Chair. Well, first, I just want to thank everyone in Tampa Bay Board, the team, Chuck. My understanding is Michelle was the one that came up with the idea of the partnership a long time ago, at least according to Chuck. And to me, it was all smiles that morning seeing how wonderful this exhibit turned out for the children. And I will tell you, if you have not had a chance to go to Grade X, you need to go to Grade X. You need to check out the interactive large wetland terrarium that basically kind of simulates exactly what happens with water and how it flows. And the children can create their own rainstorm and it falls down. And you see how the aquifer is replenished and how water travels and how the pollutants are all naturally filtered. And it is a truly fantastic exhibit. Y'all did such a wonderful job. I was happy that our chair and Commissioner Eggers were there. We have to invite Morris, the Exploratosaurus, to our facilities. That is their mascot. And I think their mascot would kind of fit in great with the alligators over there at the reservoir.
Maybe he could join us for public comment one day. Is there anyone else? Okay, thank you. We are going to move on now to item B2, which is our legislative and grant funding program update. Mr. Bartlett, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Before we dive into today's legislative update, I wanted to briefly acknowledge that the Florida legislative session is still ongoing as lawmakers work to finalize the budget. Despite the extended timeline and the uncertainty of budget negotiations, I am happy to report that both of Tampa Bay Water's appropriation requests are still survive in the Senate budget. Joining us today to provide a deeper overview and answer any questions that you guys may have is our legislative consultants, Mr. Pete Dunbar with Jones Walker and Mr. Matthew Blair with Corcoran Partners. We certainly appreciate their continued guidance, and with that, I'll kick it over to Mr. Dunbar.
Thank you, Brant. Mr. Chairman, are you able to hear me all right?
We are. Good morning.
Good morning. As Brant mentioned, we're into an extended session, a very unusual one in some ways. But as the 60 days ended, everything that was pending except for the budget and tax-related issues were technically laid upon the table. They are not available between now and the end of June for further consideration. Once that was done, I prepared the initial post-session report that I think you may have already received. And let me mention that there were 4 related water bills that we have been monitoring that actually did pass. Let me highlight a couple of those. The first one would be the Department of Agriculture's package, that's Senate Bill 700. It was delivered to the governor last week, and he did sign it on Friday. In that package is the water quality additive restrictions, and that will take effect on the 1st of July of this year. I want to mention one other, simply because we are now out of that sequence. There was pending legislation that did pass that put new restrictions when utilities were basically required to move as road widening or road maintenance occurs. That bill was amended during the last iteration on the Senate floor, and it was limited only to telecommunications infrastructure, so no longer applies to Tampa Bay Water. There are 4 other measures that did pass that are operational. They include the changes to the Administrative Procedures Act and a few other items, but none of those bills have been delivered to the governor yet, so we're still waiting on final action. Suffice it to say that things are not particularly pleasant here in the Capitol, given the budget and tax dispute and the controversy over Hope, Florida. The House has already passed an extension that will take the legislative meeting dates all the way to the last day of the current fiscal year. Currently, at least publicly, there's very little progress that's being made on budget discussions, but let me, if I can, defer to Matthew Blair at this point and let him talk specifically on the budget. And then, Mr. Chairman, both Matthew and I'll be happy to respond to any questions you may have. So Matthew, take it away, bud.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Pete. And my apologies for being off camera. I'm traveling today. Mr. Chairman, can you and the other members of the board hear me okay?
We can. Good morning, Mr. Blair.
Thank you. Yes, as Pete said, and as Brant already started with, the budget is quite delayed, as is the tax package. We understand this morning that the House submitted its most recent offer over the weekend to the Senate on a sales tax cut package. It sounds like the sales tax cut is now not part of that proposal. And that is really a key item that has held up budget negotiations, is a disagreement between the House and the Senate and the governor relative to a tax cut and what would be included in that tax cut package. And so we expect to see continued discussions this week between the presiding officers and their leadership teams, but we have no idea when members will be called back to Tallahassee. They were told late last week that they didn't need to plan to be in Tallahassee before Memorial Day, and that they would have more information post Memorial Day about when they would plan to need to travel up. So again, as Pete said, it's been a bit of a chaotic and disjointed session, and that negotiations are continuing on those 2 fronts with not a clear resolution at the moment that I could report to you. As Pete already said, the funding requests are alive in the budget process, and we expect that once the budget process is undertaken, that it will be rapid. And we're doing all that we can to be advocating on behalf of our budget items staying in the budget and part of the continued conversation once those discussions pick back up, both behind the scenes in subcommittee meetings and then more publicly with the return to Tallahassee. If I can, I'll pivot to a quick federal snapshot and suggest to you that we put forward 4 federal funding requests with members of Congress prior to the deadline in early May for the Congress to consider those as member projects. But I do want to let members know, many of us are reading and you may be hearing about budget negotiations that are ongoing in a tax cut package that is occurring in Washington this week, next, with an expectation to pass legislation by July 4th. That bill and that package will not include a normal budget process for the appropriations process for the coming year. That is a continuation reconciliation budget. And so the projects that we put forward are in line to be considered during their normal appropriations process, which would begin early in the fall and is expected to end sometime in October. But it is not to be confused with the current process that's ongoing and may be wrapped up again, the target date by the 4th of July. I know that one of the members mentioned PFAS. We continue to monitor that at a federal level as well. And I just point out that the EPA director, Lee Zeldin, and the Commissioner of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, and the Secretary of HHS, RFK, Robert Kennedy, continue to talk about PFAS and its impact, and even did that within the last couple of weeks as to its impact on agriculture and agricultural products and the like. So we continue to see the administration talking about PFAS acceptable levels and ramping up conversation about private companies and their use of certain products as well. So with that, I'll stop the update. That's where we sit at the moment. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. That was a very thorough report. Is there any questions or comments from board members at this time? I don't see any. Mr. Dunbar, Mr. Blair, thank you very much. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right. We have 3 action items to approve or not approve this morning. The first is item C1, Cypress Creek Wellfield Improvements.
Agenda item C1 is for professional engineering services related to the Cypress Creek wellfield improvements. The Cypress Creek wellfield is one of our largest and most productive groundwater facilities. The wellfield is also included in our ongoing wellfield improvements program to proactively renew aging infrastructure and also modernize pumps and motors and improve energy efficiency. The program strengthens the system's reliability and its resiliency. The wellfield improvements program includes 11 wellfields you see pictured here on the slide. And as you can see, 3 have been completed, 3 are ongoing, and then 5 remain to be scheduled and upgraded. The scope covers a full design and coordination effort for the upgrades and includes design of the new pumps and motors and the electrical system, upgrades to the well houses, surge protection, hydraulic modeling, and coordination and preparation with the permitting and the procurement. Staff recommends approval of the engineering services contract with McKim & Creed for $1.4 million, including $168,000 is for the owner's allowance.
Any questions or comments from Councilman Miranda?
I'll move.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Councilman Miranda, seconded by Commissioner Wustall. Please record your vote.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number C2. This is the supplemental bond resolution 2025-010 for utility system refunding revenue bonds.
Before we move on, I think there was an error. I saw 8 votes. We have 9 members present. I just want to make sure we capture that accurately.
It's Commissioner Cohen. I beg your pardon. You voted yay?
I did vote yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning again, Chairman and members of the board. Agenda item C2 is an action item for refunding the Series 2015A bonds, and board approval will be requested at the end of the presentation. This refunding consideration was first presented to the board last July as another financing strategy to keep water rates affordable and stable as we build the infrastructure to meet the growing needs of the region. Now, I would like to introduce Jay Glover and Nick Roca with PFM Financial Advisors to present the financing structure, and they will be followed by Tom Giblin with Neighbor Giblin and Nickerson to present the bond resolution.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Rocca with PFM Financial Advisors, and today we'll be providing a brief overview of an opportunity to refund a portion of Tampa Bay Water's outstanding debt for savings. First, wanted to start out with a graphic here detailing the authority's current debt service schedule. It's a combination of the brown and the green bars represent the annual debt payments related to the outstanding bonds, with the green bars specifically detailing the Series 2015A bonds, which we are looking to refund. All combined, the outstanding bonds result in a maximum annual debt service, also known as MADS, as approximately $82.8 million there in fiscal year 2027. We additionally show the $10.2 million of annual acquisition credits provided to the member governments through fiscal year 2028, and those are represented by those light blue bars at the top. On this slide, we provide some more details regarding the 2015A bonds we are looking at refunding. The 2015A bonds have $171,635,000 of principal maturing in fiscal years 2027 through 2037. And these are the maturities that are eligible to be refunded prior to maturity without any penalties. The earliest allowed call date for these maturities is October 1st, 2025. The table on the right here provides details on these principal amounts maturing in each year that we are looking to refund. We anticipate the refunding will result in debt service savings each year, along with the ability to release some of the funds currently held in the Debt Service Reserve Fund. Based on current market rates, we estimate a refunding of the 2015A bonds would result in approximately $6 million of net present value savings, which is equivalent to approximately 3.5% of the refunded principal amount. This would reduce the annual debt service payments by approximately $530,000 per year and also reduce the maximum annual debt service amount in 2027 by a similar amount. In addition to the debt service savings, the refunding could also allow the release of approximately $280,000 from the Debt Service Reserve Fund. PFM and the authority's financing team is closely monitoring the municipal market and will help advise Tampa Bay Water on the savings potential of the refunding. Based on the current tax law, the earliest we could actually close on a tax-exempt refunding of the 2015A bonds is July 3rd, which is 90 days before the October 1st call date. However, if market conditions are not favorable at that time, we can always elect to price the refunding bonds at a later date. And here we just lay out a preliminary financing schedule for the 2025 refunding bonds. Today, May 19th, we are requesting the Tampa Bay Water Board of Directors to approve the bond resolution, allowing the issuance of the refunding bonds based on certain parameters, which will be further described by bond counsel. Then sometime in mid-June is the earliest we expect for the pricing of the 2025 bonds to occur, and this is when we'll actually set the rates on the refunding bonds and establish the savings amount. Then on July 3rd, as I earlier mentioned, this is the earliest allowed closing date for the 2025 bonds. And then that October 1st, 2025 date, that's the earliest allowed call date of the existing 2015A bonds. At this time, I'll go ahead and pass it over to bond counsel, and he'll further describe the bond resolution and related financing parameters. Yeah, there might be another presentation.
There we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Tom Giblin with Neighbors Giblin and Nickerson. Let me highlight a few things in the resolution that's in your package this morning. Number one is that we lay out various parameters that are in the bond resolution in terms of what the bonds need to look like in order to go ahead and proceed with the transaction. And I'll get to that in the next slide. We have items such as the purpose of the issue, which is the refunding of the 15A bonds that were issued about 10 years ago. We authorize a negotiated sale, which means you can go ahead and market these bonds through underwriters. You don't have to do a public sale on this. we have delegated, as we always do, to the general manager to go ahead and sign the purchase contract with your underwriting team if these parameters are met. We have the form of different documents that are attached as exhibits to the resolution. They include a purchase contract with the underwriters. It includes an escrow deposit agreement under which monies will be held for the bondholders, the old bondholders. We have preliminary official statement, which is your disclosure document, which lays out all the pertinent details and facts about this authority and the bond issue. We also have secured this refunding issue with your reserve account. The reserve account has cash and a surety bond in it, which comes from an insurance company. Okay, these are the parameters that are in front of you. We cannot issue more than $175 million of bonds. We can refinance all or a portion of the 2015 bonds, depending on the financial circumstances and what's most beneficial for you. The true interest cost cannot be more than 3.75. Underwriting discount is laid out as no more than 0.4%. Final maturity is no further down the road than 2036, and that is the final maturity for the bonds that we're refinancing. So we're not extending your debt out at all. Present value savings, which is the overall savings that you'll generate once we sell the bonds, has to be at least 3% of the par amount of the refunded bonds. The action today is approval of Resolution 2025-10. That is the only action we need to take for this board. Once you adopt that, we're set to go. We'll have both the authority as well as the financial advisor monitoring the market to make sure that we hit the market at a sweet spot. So something that will please you. And questions?
Commissioner Mariano.
Yes. By the way, congratulations on having such a great firm. You guys have done a great service for many things, especially when I first got started, the land use meetings that you'd have, and appreciate all the work you've done with FAC. So, question for you, with the latest budget that's going on federally, talking about, I think everyone's looking for cuts. We see there could be a big push to fight back on a budget deficit. How do you think that's going to affect the market, and do you think we're best, or are we positioned to wait to see exactly what happens for us?
The biggest concern we've had is whether or not the tax exemption for municipal debt will stay in place. Right now, coming out of the Ways and Means Committee, it looks like it will stay in place, but who knows? You know, things could get scrambled at the last moment, and that could be a target for folks that want to raise more revenues. Now, in terms of the overall market, Jay?
You want to address that?
Yeah.
Chair, board members, Jay Glover from PFM Financial Advisors, LLC. And I like to tell people if I knew what the markets were doing, I probably would not be standing here with you all today. But yeah, it's the million-dollar question. I mean, I think what we're recommending to issuers and what we're doing here today is we're looking for ultimate flexibility. So we're looking to get this resolution approved as soon as possible so we have flexibility to get into the market when we think the most opportune time is. And that might not be in June. We really don't have a deadline on when the financing can get done. We'd like to get it done before October of 2025, which is the first call date, because once you get past that, you never recoup the savings by missing that date, but that's not a requirement. But I will tell you, there's so many things moving the market right now, from inflation, which used to be the big thing moving the market, that seemed to be secondary now. There's a lot of emphasis on the trade deals that are happening or might not be happening. And then lo and behold, this weekend, we find out that Moody's has downgraded the federal government from AAA to AA1, which has resulted in, as you would imagine, Treasury rates moving up. It is to be determined whether we'll see municipal bond rates move up as well because of that action. So, I'm a believer in interest rates kind of go in cycles. They move up and down. I do think over the next several months, there will be an opportunity where we can take advantage of a market that gets you favorable savings. As was mentioned, we're about 3.5% savings right now. So we're above the parameter. We'd obviously like to get more. So we'll work with your staff to determine the best time to price the bonds. And again, we're being flexible. We're not going to rush into the market just to get a minimum of 3% savings if we think there's a better opportunity in the future.
Thank you. Yes.
Just one question. The word approximately before the 530, what does that mean, up or down?
Excuse me?
The word approximately before the 530,000 in savings annually, what does that mean as far as a base between going up or down?
Yeah, so the annual savings, we say approximately because it's not
I
the same
understand that.
amount in each year. So 1 year is maybe 525, 1 year is 535. So it's right at that $530,000 mark.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move approval?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Mariano, seconded by Commissioner Wustel for approval. Please indicate your vote. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Okay, and we are going to move on now to item number C3. This is a professional services contract, and Mr. Warren Hogg, our Chief Science Officer, will present this item.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Members of the board. This is a professional services contract that will continue permit-required monitoring and compliance reporting for the surface water permits and the Tampa Bay desalination facility. This is an action item, and I will request board approval at the end of a short presentation. We have ongoing requirements of our Tampa Bypass Canal and Alafire River water use permits to collect and analyze environmental data to make sure that our freshwater withdrawals are not impacting those water resources. We also monitor the environment around the Tampa Bay desalination facility to make sure that the discharge from that facility does not cause impacts to the Tampa Bay area. Monitoring of the desal plant is not required by a permit, but that has been a key part of our communication and coordination with local regulatory agencies and community stakeholder groups. The work under this program is currently being performed by Environmental Science Associates, and their contract will expire at the end of this year. We do need a new monitoring and assessment contract to continue those professional services, and we've negotiated a contract for it the next 4 years. The work covers a pretty wide array of field monitoring, data analysis and interpretation, and preparing compliance reports for those facilities. Environmental Science Associates has specialized staff and field equipment, and they've completed this work in a cost-effective manner for us. Outsourcing the work means that we don't have to acquire and maintain boats, insurance, very specialized field monitoring equipment, and retain the specialized staff to analyze these types of data. The recommended contract with Environmental Science Associates will cover the next 4 years, and this will be the permit-required monitoring and reporting at a cost not to exceed $2.477 million. Be happy to answer any questions.
Seeing none, can we have a motion for
Move for
approval?
approval?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hanowitz, seconded by Commissioner Wustel. Please record your vote.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we have one presentation this morning, and that is from the city of Newport Richey. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. My name is Colin Eichmuller. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director for the city of Newport Richey. Today, we'll be going over kind of an overhead view of our utility infrastructure for the city of Newport Richey with Robert Rivera, our Public Works Director, kind of taking the charge. So with this overhead, we have the potable water system, our sanitary sewer system, reclaimed water system, and our current and future utility projects. So with regards to our potable water system, it's provided through the Starkey well field and is treated via the Maidham Water Treatment Plant, which was awarded the 2024 Outstanding Water Treatment Award by the Florida section of the AWWA, and was featured in the November 2024 issue of the Treatment Plant Operator magazine. It's on page 20 if you're interested. And that's in no small part thanks to staff out there headed out by Greg Wickham. So by the numbers, we average 5.6 million gallons per day, 3.6 of which is fed to the city customers, and 1.97 million gallons is fed to our regional system through our interconnects. We have 155 miles of potable water mains and just shy of 18,000 active service connections, with a projected increase of 331 with the Newport Corners project on Little Road. Moving on to our wastewater treatment facility. Although this is a water association, our reclaim system is provided through the wastewater treatment facility, so it's important to highlight. We have an average treatment of 5.5 million gallons per day that flow into the wastewater treatment facility, with a total of 76 lift stations, 29 miles of sanitary sewer force mains, 87 miles of gravity sewer lines, and 15,000 service connections, with, again, the Newport Corners adding an additional 331 connections to that. The treatment facility is permitted at 7.5 million gallons per day, and as of right now provides all the reuse and reclaim for the city of Newport Richey.
Quick question for you. Yeah, real quick. Sure. Keeping in the spirit of water versus sanitary, I'll just use the word PFAS. So do you all land apply the sewage, or do you have a pelletizer plant?
Pelletizer.
Oh, pelletizer, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
So our reclamation facility averages, which is housed there at our wastewater treatment facility, averages approximately 5 to 5.5 million gallons per day of reclaim that is distributed out through the system. Again, we can only put out what we take in, and you'll lose a little bit through that treatment process just through evaporation. So keep that in mind. 21 miles of reclaimed transmission lines and 17 miles of reclaimed distribution lines. 496 service connections that will also be expanding by 331 with the addition of the Newport Corners. So our current utility projects that we've completed, we have our miscellaneous potable and reclaim extension projects. It's kind of as an as-needed basis. We go through most of our system and look at areas that are in need of that, whether it's tying into our sanitary sewer system with some of the septic systems as they transition over, or providing water in areas that otherwise need that expansion pushed out to them. Our smart meter replacement project finished up this past year with 7,400 total meters completed. And as that is coming online, we are able to notify people on a real-time basis whether or not they have an issue within their own household to try and maintain some of our water distribution there and ensure that we're not using any or having any wastewater go out, or water wasted as it goes out, should I say. So, for instance, you would think of a toilet flapper valve in your house. Well, you may not know about it until you get your bill. We can go ahead and call you that day. NPR and Pasco County interconnect upgrades, we're currently working on that right now. The permitting has been gone through, so we're going to be starting that project relatively soon. That'll be the one that's on Massachusetts and Little Road. Our sewer utility system improvements, again, this would be as an as-needed basis. We will get with our consultant and review what we have in place and what he determines to be necessary at the time. That could be anything from lift station upgrades to replacing sewer mains throughout the system. And again, same thing for the extension projects. Our sewer main and manhole lining projects, as is with everybody else, I'm sure, we conduct that annually. We go through and line some of our existing infrastructure to ensure that it lasts far into the future. Looking ahead, our Town and Country Leisure Lane Sewer Extension Project, we're currently looking for funding through the appropriations for that at this time. That would be the installation of new water mains in the area and transitioning that entire area from septic to sewer lines that we would then install. Our potable water and reclaim water system improvements, again, that would be based on the analysis conducted by our consultants that would be then added into our utility master plan. we will, again, continue forward with our annual projects with the sewer manhole lining and upgrading our lift stations. With our wastewater treatment facility, again, being that this is water, I would still like to highlight the Schreiber tank conversion. We'll be trying to switch that over into our to align with our 4 oxidation ditches. So if you're familiar with the process, our system currently employs the use of 4 oxidation ditches for the treatment of the wastewater. And then that also includes tying into our Schreiber system, which is kind of a conversion of an oxidation ditch and a clarifier at the same time. So you can imagine that that would be pretty cost prohibitive and would involve a series of mechanisms that would require high maintenance. So our idea there is to switch it over to a nitrogen or a oxidation ditch to improve our denitrification process, reduce maintenance, and is projected to have a 12 to 18-month timeline. We're currently conducting our aeration tank seals and coating to improve the lifespan of the plant and increase our hardening against some of the hurricane issues, and then our clarifier gearbox replacement. I'd also like to take a minute to recognize the people out at the wastewater treatment facility. Joe Palazzolo is our chief operator out there. He does a fantastic job, and during the hurricanes this past season, not only was he able to maintain operations continuously throughout the plant, but given the entire influx of flow, not once did we ever break a sweat thinking that we were going to have to discharge or go into the Gulf in any way, shape, or form. They were able to rotate that process between our reject tanks and our oxidation ditches thoroughly so that way we could continue the treatment process while still taking in all the flows of the areas that were inundated with water. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I'm open for any questions.
That's outstanding. Thank you for mentioning that. Any questions, Commissioner Mariano? Yeah. And
just one quick one on the meter replacement for the water side with the smart meters. Do you also have meters in place for the reclaimed? Or is
we do have meters in place for the reclaim. However, we're a flat rate for that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mariano.
Thank you. So let's talk about the Cross Bayou plant. I know I had some complaints a couple of years ago about flow, even the past year, where they kind of see the tanks toppling over, you got to pressure clean the tanks. So you're telling me there's no flow going across by you whatsoever?
Negative. We've never had that happen, and we've never had any spill over the tank since I've been there.
All right, no questions.
Commissioner Westall.
Thanks. When you completed your smart meter replacements, did you happen to, I think you were the one who gave the presentation that, right? You remember. Okay, so are you happen to compare the increase reads on the new meters compared to the previous old meter reads where you guys were predicting that you were potentially greatly under reading, I guess, the usage? Are you guys tracking at all what the actual true reads are compared to what you might have been missing in the past with the old meters?
Yeah, so I've worked closely with our billing and collections within our finance department. And what we've decided to do is take a full view annual analysis of that. So the project completed sometime in January. And so what we were going to go ahead and do is compare the 2024 with the 2025 numbers on just the calendar year. But on an anecdotal level, from what I've just briefly reviewed, we've seen some significant progress in that, and we were able to kind of extrapolate that across, and some early indications are looking at a 17% increase in reads. Nothing significant as of right now that I would say would jump right out at me, but again, we were going to go ahead and conduct that analysis at the end of the calendar year and be able to do a side-by-side comparison throughout the entire year, look at the rainwater totals, and kind of go through there.
I'm only asking because I'm trying to figure out a way to predict people, because we have over, I believe, 30,000 was the last I heard.
That's not that bad.
Down less than that? I mean, outstanding, though. Okay, so worse than I thought. And so I want to, that's a lot of...
Still not that bad, you're okay.
You know, I often point this metric out to people in Hillsborough, but as a countywide commissioner, I represent more people than 11 governors of their entire states with 2 legislative aides, not an executive staff. So I'm trying to predict the amount of outrageous emails that we're going to get when people have increased bills in a way that we might soften that blow to them. That's why I'm asking. But you've been very helpful on enlightening me on these meter issues. So thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman
I
Moran.
just want to thank you, sir, for a very fine presentation, very, very well done, and very acceptable to all of us. I appreciate it very much, and my experience says meters do not run fast, they run slow. That's why you change them.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, I follow Mayor Davis on presentations.
Thank you. Very good. All right, at this time, there is no other administrative business this morning. Can we please have a motion to receive and file?
We'll move.
Second.
Please record your vote on Councilman Miranda's motion, seconded by Councilwoman Hanowitz.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed unanimously.
And at this time, if there is no additional business, I would remind everyone that our next meeting will be July 21st at 9:30 a.m. There is no meeting in June, so have a nice summer, and we'll see you July 21st.
Thank you, Chair.
I was going to